Hi friends, welcome to this channel, and in this video I'm going to share with you 5 lessons that I've learned about property investing over the last 6 years. 6 years ago, I was actually an MOE scholar, and at this time I would actually be in school teaching the students. But since I've left my job, I've achieved some form of financial freedom and also time freedom. And in the last 6 years, I've actually bought 12 properties and sold 5 of them. So this video is for anybody who wants to be a property investor, really wanting to avoid the mistakes and how to make the best decision, how to stretch your dollar, right? And at the same time, this video is for myself because it's documenting all the lessons that I've learned in the last 6 years. And I've done multiple transactions for myself, buying many properties, and also for my clients, buying and selling. So this is really based on the most current knowledge that I have, and my most recent purchase was actually with Kelly, my wife, and we just purchased one property last week. After selling 5 properties over the last 6 years, here are 5 lessons that I'll tell my younger self. Now, lesson number 1, start with small deals, then you can make bigger deals. Now, so what do I mean? Imagine you are playing a video game. Do you start by fighting the big boss? Normally no, right? Because you are not equipped, you don't have the skills to fight the big boss, although it's the most exciting part of the game. Instead, most games will ask you to fight small battles first, pick up some skills, pick up some weapons along the way, and then eventually you will be equipped to fight the big boss at the end of the game. So how does that affect property investing? Well, when I first started, I wanted to buy a 3-bedroom condo. I walked into a show flat, wow, yeah. But anyway, I found out that I couldn't afford a 3-bedroom condo. And first, same thing when I bought my first 3 industrial properties. Did I own 100% of each property? The answer is no. Now, did I have to own 100% of each property? The answer is also no. Instead, what I did was to make small deals by co-owning the properties with other people. And as the industrial properties make financial gains like rental and capital appreciation, because I own a percentage in the properties, I also made certain gains out of it. And that made me to, of course, have financial wealth, right? And because I couldn't own the 3-bedroom condo, I went to buy a 1-bedroom condo. And it is all these little stepping stones that allowed me to gain financial wealth, and so that today, after selling all these properties, I'm able to buy, for example, a Lentor Mansion 3+ study under my own name, 100% under me, as well as many other properties in my portfolio which is 100% under me. So the lesson learned of going into small deals first to make big deals is a very important lesson in this game called the cash flow game, which validated all these learnings because I learned the cash flow game later on, right? And so what I want to do is I always hold this cash flow game every quarter, and so that people can learn about property investing through the cash flow game. And if you're interested to join the game, sign up anywhere in this video, the link will be there, and I'll see you in the next one. Lesson number 2, when the opportunity comes, don't wait. Right, I want to go back to the story of my Kent Ridge Hill Residences, which was a 1-bedroom. I managed to sell it at record price when it reached TOP. And I was very happy that, when it reached TOP, I was out of the SSD, so I could sell. But many of my neighbors actually felt that, hey, the price could be higher later on, so they decided to hold and they didn't sell. Now, in contrast, right, Kelly's 1-bedroom in the Florence Residences wasn't like this. When he obtained his TOP, she was still in her SSD period, and so she couldn't sell. And so we decided to rent it out for a few months. And during the rental, we did try to market it for sale, but the response was lackluster. Number one, because the house wasn't very neatly kept. So the tenant was there, wasn't dirty, but she was living out of her luggage knowing that it's going to be just a short stay. So when people went to see the unit, it wasn't super appealing. But well, I cannot control what the tenant wants to do in her house, right? So we only managed to sell the Florence 1-bedroom after the tenant was out, and after that we went to do a lot of home styling, make sure that the appearance was very appealing, play with the mood and everything else. And so eventually when we sold Florence Residences, the hype that came along with the TOP, right, had already died down. There were fewer buyers, there were fewer inquiries, and so the price that we sold at the Florence Residences wasn't that fantastic. In contrast, the KRH that managed to ride on the TOP hype was able to sell at a record price. And as for my neighbors, because they continued to hold on after the TOP, they also experienced the hype dying down, and of course, together with the market changes, today 1-bedrooms at the Kent Ridge Hill Residences were selling much lower than my price. So What's the lesson here? When the opportunity comes, when there's opportunity to sell, don't wait, just go for it. Lesson number 3, I would always ask myself what is the main objective in the property investment. Is it for capital appreciation or am I for rental cash flow? Now, when we bought our 1-bedrooms at Kent Ridge Hill Residences or the Florence Residences, we went for one of the cheapest units available at the time because that was how much we could afford, right? And one of the reasons for buying the cheaper units was also because that as we go up on the higher floors, definitely the price will increase as well, but it will give us a lower rental yield. Because as you go up, you pay a lot more, but the rent does not correspondingly increase. So to get a higher rental yield, usually low to mid floors will give a better rental yield. But in the case of the Florence Residences, why it was cheaper was because of 2 things. Number 1, it was on a lower floor, and number 2, it was facing a main road junction. So when it came to selling the Florence Residences, one of the biggest objections was the road noise, right? Because it was a road junction and there was like pickup trucks, buses and everything, and when the traffic light turns to green, you will hear them accelerate, it will like Vroom. I tell you, a lot of people, a lot of buyers will turn off because it faced the main road. And I kind of questioned my decision because back then there was an option to buy almost the same price but level 2 but facing a park, like a greenery area in the inside of the condominium project. So that might be a lot more quieter, a lot more appealing to buyers. So eventually, right, I understood that by going on a low floor, by going for a low price, I will be able to get higher rental yield. But is my objective really about rental cash flow, or is it about capital appreciation? And of course, how fast I can sell off the unit to go on to other opportunities. So if my long game is not rental, instead my long game is capital appreciation, then I'll be focusing on more of what is the property that can give me less objections or the least objections and the easiest to sell so that I can move on to my next opportunity as soon as possible. Lesson number 4, do not get trapped in a sunk cost fallacy. Now this is important. What's a sunk cost fallacy? Now imagine you go to a cinema, you bought a movie ticket, and 30 minutes into the movie, alamak, the movie is terrible. Now instead of stand up and leave, right, you decided to continue watching the terrible movie because you have already paid money for it, even though you know that watching the movie is just wasting more of your time. There are many people who continue to sit there, and I give you one more example. There are some people, because they have a relationship for like 3, 4, 5 years, they continue to go and get married even though they know their relationship is actually not that great, but they feel a bit wasted or sayang to like break up because they have already spent so much time and effort together. That kind of thing. So that is the sunk cost fallacy, right? Then eventually the marriage may not pan out well. By now, you might have realized that Kelly's 1-bedroom at Florence Residences did not do spectacularly well. We sold it just below $800,000, which means we will net, after minus all the expenses, probably earn about $60,000 only. So same thing, is this a sunk cost fallacy? Do we continue to sit in this terrible movie or do we stand up and leave? And the answer, of course, is we left. And why do you want to leave? Well, I will ask myself this question. Is 10% ROI better or 15% ROI better? Obviously, most people and myself will also say 15% is better. Now the answer is wrong, right? Why? So the answer is wrong. Actually 10% could be better because the key thing is the base amount. So what do I mean? 10% of 2 million is going to make way more money than 15% of 1 million. Right? You do the math. Now for those who have watched my videos before, recall that Kelly's Florence Residences 1-bedroom was actually shared with her brother 50-50, which means that at the purchase price of like $700,000, she actually owns 50% of it, which is like close to $350,000. So even if this property can make 15% gain, it's 15% upon $350,000. Now, after selling the Florence Residences, Kelly is now going to own 100% of a $1.4 million property. It's a 3-bedroom. So, just a 10% of that 1.4 million is going to be more than 15% gain from a 350k investment, right? The jump is actually 4x, more than 4x jump actually. So we learn not to get trapped in this sunk cost fallacy that if the Florence 1-bedroom is not doing particularly well, stand up and leave and go into the next best opportunity. And of course, go into something that has got a larger base amount. And now lesson number 5 is I will go for value and basic properties, and this is what I call the chicken rice properties. So if you understand, chicken rice is a very important food in Singapore and also relatively affordable in Singapore. So when it comes to like a recession, for example, we will definitely tighten our purse strings. We will not go to a restaurant so often. Instead, we will probably eat chicken rice more often or cook at home more often, right? And that means that chicken rice is actually something affordable and something basic that most Singaporeans need, and definitely you need to eat something to survive. By that, I do not mean to go for the cheapest thing you can find, right? For example, popiah is $2 and chicken rice is $4. Would you go for $2 popiah or $4 chicken rice? I think most people will go for chicken rice, even though it costs more, but because it's going to be more value for money and more filling. So similarly in property investing, what I realized was during COVID, when there was a deep recession, there were people who were coming to industrial properties to rent our spaces because they do not need a fanciful office in a downtown CBD where the rents are crazy high, and people were working from home. They no longer need such a big office space. They actually downsize and try to cut costs by coming to industrial properties where the rents were much cheaper than downtown. So unexpectedly, industrial properties began to bloom, rents went up and prices went up as well. Similarly, in the residential space, today I can see that 1-bedrooms are not so much in demand, whereas the 3-bedrooms, especially in the outskirts or what we call OCR, where it's close to a lot of families, a lot of schools, these are really in demand because a 3-bedroom is something basic that most families would need. But the key here is to find the affordable ones. So these are lessons that I've learned through my own property investments using my own money. Now I don't have anything to sell you, I don't have any course or masterclass. I make money through my own property investments and also to help others manage their property investments. So the day I stop investing myself will also be the day I stop my agent work. Now, if you find this video useful, do like, share and comment. I'm growing this channel, so I would greatly appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel. I'll post a new video every month. So see you in the next one. Bye-bye.